Okay, bankroll challenge continues. We're at 383. We didn't make much progress last time, but at least we didn't lose. Let's see what's available here. It's under $1 still. I think that's what our bankroll can support. We missed this free roll. I'm not gonna be able to get into a free roll now. See what we got here. We got a 55 cents with 86 minutes left in it for the registration. We got a buck one, but that's probably too much for us. 6 players. That's the best one, but one person waiting for play that one. Looks like it's too late on Saturday night. It's already dying down. Could go for one of these juicy $1.65 ones, but that's not really responsible. It's half the bankroll on a long shot. This is just one tournament. It's going to be really boring. Anything about to start? What do we got here? Got this 27-cent one. It starts at 25 minutes. It's rough, man. There isn't much selection down here right now on a Saturday night. All right. Well, we're gonna do the boring, responsible thing. Wait for this one to start in 24 minutes. And then meanwhile, play this one for now. Chance to win $62. Yeah, we even got some rebuys. If we don't cash, then we're gonna have a pretty big hit to our bankroll. I don't see an easy way to make up for that if we don't cash on that. $1.05 is not responsible, although I would normally do that, but it's recording. I'm gonna be more responsible. So just how brutally boring it is to wait this game. This is a loose call. I'm starting off. Whatever. I'm going for trying to make some chips here. I'm not just gonna play only aces early on. You know, it's something. And we could sign up for the 55-cent. There's one player waiting. Maybe more people will be interested once they see there's 2 people interested. See how that goes. I'm not gonna play cash. Cash is lame. Unless there's a bomb pot going. Alright, what the hell? There's too many people in here. I'm not good. I should just fold that pre-flop. If you hit the set, you don't get paid. There's plenty of 6-player bomb pots, but I don't do. Oh, here we go. We got one. Okay, perfect. We'll wait for this one. And people are done with tournaments. They want to play cash only now. We're in 4th place on the waiting list. Can't really see what's going on because they don't want people to know what's going on anymore. Alright, well, we punted a few chips there on those pocket 4s. We're going to be a little more aggressive. Last video, we were not aggressive early on. We ended up just putting 3 hours in the tournament for nothing. Blinding down. See if anybody wants. There's two of us. See if there's any more interest here. A turbo. We are waiting to get in. Still fourth on the list here. Yeah, that was a little bit tilting to put that much time in there, even though we didn't lose money. We lost a lot of time for nothing. That last session. We got so close to the money. Got our ace king cracked by king jack on our all in. Very tilting. This is the hardest part of the game, is dealing with the frustration of the game. Because you know what wins in the long run, but you start saying, well, it didn't work last time, so I'm going to be an idiot. I gotta avoid that. Alright, I'm loosening it up here, just a hair. See how out of control it gets. Just gonna miss a flop and just dumb idea. Alright, we can bluff at this now, because I don't get these players. Like, why did nobody see bet bluff at it? Hey, we lucked out. We hit a card that helps us in the river. They got ace queen. Oh, we had our gin card. Alright, well, alright, we are up now. I'm playing a little aggressive. So, it's paying off so far. Wait for position next time. So far, aggression's been good. We went above average stack and we came in late. We started late. Moved out. So how long does this tournament go? 10 levels remaining, 8-minute blinds. That's not bad. It's not bad. An hour, 20 minutes. And they close registration. It's not bad, man. The 27-cent one was ridiculous. It was like 200 minutes. I couldn't even calculate, but that was like it was like 4 hours of open registration. Just ridiculous. Cash. Okay, I'm just gonna watch them play cash. See if I get a feel for the table. Then I can't see their names. I know where they're sitting. See how the game's playing. It's tight. Look at this. Look at this. There's no bomb pot. That guy could have pocket aces and got nothing. He got 3 cents for his aces. Or he's bluffing, but we'll see if he's playing a lot. Oh, he's gonna fold. So he had something good and he got nothing for it. This guy limps. I don't know if it's because he's got a bad hand or because he's afraid if he raises he won't get any action. Wow, look how tight that is. 2-cent limp and everyone in position folds. Nobody wants to take a stab at it. Yeah, I think it's more important in the cash game to watch how things are playing out than in a tournament. You keep changing players around, and for me, there's generally a strategy that works. For most players play the same way in a tournament, and most players play the same way in cash online. They're tight. Some completely passive tight, some slightly aggressive tight. see anybody coming here and just dumping off money ever. Anybody behaving like they're wasted. Obviously wasted. I do that once in a while. Like, how come I'm the only one? And I just stay away from it from days because I don't know, tournaments. It's just it's like a, for me. There's a total structure to it, and you don't have to deal with the boredom because the blinds go up. These cash games, the blinds never go up. It's so damn boring, and these guys don't get tilted by how boring it is. I mean, if you're in a casino, you can make it exciting by, you can make the blinds go up by starting off at a small limit and then moving up to a bigger one, moving up to a bigger one. There's more action in the live game. In a live cash game, if you got aces, somebody's going to give you some action. You're not just going to pick up the blinds with aces. In these games, man, you can get pocket aces and win 3 cents. Not that pocket aces are unbeatable. Alternative is you play aces, somebody sucks out on you and makes 2 pair, but it's a live game. These games are so dead. Look at going up to a nickel pre-flop. It's head to head. Nobody else would put in a nickel except these 2 guys. Literal nickel. Alright, makes the big 7-cent bet. Alright, we got our turbo going. Sweet. Sweet, we got the turbo going. I'm still going to focus on watching the cash game. I don't even know if I even want to play it. Okay, I'm middle pairs early in the tournament, early position. No. No. That is speculative drawing hand. We play the late position only for me. Okay, there's some action. It's not completely dead, but it's, look at it, 6 cents. And everyone's gonna run. Oh, I've got 1 caller. 2 callers. Okay, this is what you consider actually a good time. My God. I'm not gonna play cash. There's no pots. It's a game of chicken played by all chickens. Somebody always folds out. Look, you got 2 people on the same bet. I'm curious how my 9s would have fared that last hand. Results in 20 minutes. Just give 20 minutes to boot up here. So I would have missed the flop, of course. There's a scary over with the person behind. I don't want to be in that spot. And if I hit my set, I guarantee you, the other guy's not going to just suddenly pile in. Actually, there's a chance if he does pile in, he's got a flush draw and he might hit it. He won't put the money in until he hits his flush either. Those are fun, the bomb potch. made a lot of money off these bomb pots, these tightwads. Don't want to get in involved. Well, Saturday night, maybe even the bomb pots are going to be contested. Five is good. Five was a legitimate draw. 12 cents. There we go. They got it all in because they both had the nuts. There you go. Their second nuts. Who are all these silly Saturday night action 1 cent, 2 cent players? Just more gamble than they have to do with. In with the near nuts. How is this an easy game when they only stick around with their freaking nuts? Okay, well that shows that there's a bomb pot. They're not going to fold the draws. It's hard to take the game too seriously. I want to get in there and play the bomb pots because it's fun. Is this video going to be about what's fun or about what's responsible? Or it's excruciatingly boring. Alright, we got a hand here. I was going to shove. Oh no. Oh no for him. No jacks, no hearts. No jacks, no jacks, no red jack. Alright. Well, we did the lucky suck out thing. That's always a good start. That's how we made our 350 last time. You can play responsible all day long. The big money's being the luck box. Once in a while. And then taking that luck box and being responsible with it. Yeah, won anything yet. Even though we are the chip leader now. I was willing to rebuy if we did. You know, I knew 8-10s are invincible. I would just rebuy, but I'm taking that and rolling the dice, saying that I want to be a chip leader. I want to play the tournament. I can afford to rebuy to a marginal shove like that. So that's what's been working. Not all the time, but it does work. I mean, for a play like that, we're playing for first or second place. I mean, you gotta beat a lot of people. The 16 interest is only, well, that's not right. Get a chance to load up. This software is so slow. At an 18 entrance, only 4 people are going to get paid. So you're not going to get anything unless you come in top 4. It's break time. Alright. Taking a break. cash gain, huh? What's there? Could just jump into one of these. Play the ball pot. I'm not sure I'll play cash at all. These guys play so tight. Do so much better just playing the 55 cent turbos. If these players aren't forced to put chips in the pot, they will not put chips in the pot. And the tournaments, the rising blinds force them to put chips in the pot. So, okay, makes actual action. Makes it worth it to bluff them. Alright, we got a 27-cent one going now. So much money we got left. Behind. We're 246 behind now. And we got a 55 cent, a 55 cent, a 27 cent. Man, I really want to play cash. Stick my $2 at 240. I'm gonna be playing scared money. I could also buy in for 80 cents. And then I have rebuy ability. I know the pros like to always top up, but you have to have the bankroll to do that. You come in short, and people might not respect you, and then it makes it easier if you double up actually. This guy must not be a good player. Then you come with a full buy-in, and then you can double up that way. Easier than trying to. You're going to intimidate people if you got a biggest stack. These people are already intimidated enough. You don't need them more intimidated. So tight. These people loosen up. I'm not going to robots. Okay, so the tournaments are these big. Okay, there we go. We got a bomb pot. Those are fun to watch. See how these guys play the bomb pots because that's where the only money is on this game. The setups and the coolers. See if we can win back the 35 cents we lost in the last cash session. All it takes is one bomb pot and we'll have it back. But there's a little bit of a Saturday Night vibe going on. These people kind of have some sense that they can't just get up every bomb pot. Somebody has to hit this thing. Somebody has to have a 5. There we go. Alright, so if you didn't hit the straight, you didn't flop the straight, then you're in bad shape here. Two pair versus top pair and a straight draw. And his straight comes in. And you get straight to win. I mean, I guess the game's easy and you pretty much know they got it if they're in there. Problem is, you don't know if they got it until you put some money in. And they won't put any money unless they got it. You know what? I for the cash game. Not ready for this kind of a cash game until we got money to burn. Until we got money to gamble with. I'm not playing any cash there. It's too much. Took too much work to get this money. I'm not playing sevens out of position. I got the chip lead. The trick with the chip lead isn't just they always say you could want to hammer everybody, but you have to be the kind of players who can be hammered. These guys are unhammerable. The trick is not to fritter away your chip lead. It's been my experience. Every time I just start pounding on people ridiculously, they just know it's ridiculous and they won't pound on them. And pound on people smartly, that's just normal poker. I'll just play normal poker then. I'm gonna play ridiculous just because I got the chip lead. And to me, sevens in early positions ridiculous against two or more, at least two other players. Yeah. See, here come Queen Jack. What am I gonna do with my pocket sevens now? All right, we got pocket queens here. That's fun to see. We'll pot it. This is the 55-cent tournament. So, see if anybody comes along. Alright, we're all in. Okay. Alright, that's going to allow us to shove all in. Hopefully we just pick it up. I'm all in. This hand, baby. He needs a lot of help. Needs a 10. Okay. Said that was good. Alright. If we let those other guys in, who knows if they're going to hit with that flop. Maybe they had set. Maybe somebody rears a king. And who knows? Just taking it down. Pocket queens is not an invincible hand. Just take the pot. Any gamblers can come along. But there are no gamblers, of course. But look, we're way above average stack. Just playing good cards aggressively, super aggressive, hyper aggressive. Play good cards. Oh, that's right. Those are the tens. Tens that crack the jacks. Oh. I knew they were beatable. I didn't know they were that beatable. I knew they were beatable. I was willing to get a good hand. Get it all in with a good hand. Double up or rebuy. I want to wait till just the end when I've got a small stack, and then I'm going to be all in all the time. I'm trying to min cash. But playing at these stakes allows you to really go for first or nothing. Let's not go first or nothing. Let's go for first or rebuy. Set of jacks barely gets any payment. So I mean, like trying to hit a set, like it's fun and nice, but clock ran down on me there. Sucks. Don't even run the risk of either getting a bad beat with your set or not getting paid with your bad set. All you gotta do is hit a set, and that's easy peasy, you're done. Good luck getting paid on it. Good luck not getting sucked out on it. And I'm gonna put some in the background. I'm too bored. Guess if I have something important to say, I'll turn the background video off. So if we turn the volume down.
When we work together, we get the job done. Thank Katie Porter for working with both parties to fix our roads, bridges, and ports, strengthen our manufacturing supply chains, and create millions of good-paying jobs to keep our economy moving.
With MailChimp, you can design more engaging marketing assets in no time at all, thanks to our AI-powered creative assistant. You're more than a small business, and MailChimp's got more easy-to-use creative tools to help you grow it. MailChimp, get started today.
There you go. Hit your hand and get nothing. Who else you can call with? Ace high. Call Ace high.
That I like, so it'll be a fun slate.
Is the Awesemo NFL Tournament Strategy Show sponsored by No House Advantage. As per usual on Saturday, I'm here joined by millionaire maker winner Neil Orfield. And Neil, we've got a pretty interesting slate for this weekend. You know, always different things to consider. But how do you feel about this slate? Any kind of just overall views on it?
It's an interesting slate. There's a lot of good value. And there are pay-up options that I like. So it'll be a fun slate. I'm not sure yet if I'm going to be going stars and scrubs because there are actually a lot of mid-range options that I like as well. So it'll be an interesting slate where there's options kind of at every level. I'm looking forward to it. And also I want to thank you for calling me a millionaire maker winner instead of a former Millie Maker winner, because the way I see it, once you're a Millie Maker winner, you're always a Millie Maker winner.
Yeah, I've made a decision and went with it. As you know, I always because I never really think about what I'm going to say ahead of time, except this time I was like, how do I introduce Neil onto shows? And, it is kind of something we're trying to build around, where it's like, this is a tournament GPP show. You've won a Millie Maker. So it's with confidence. We put the stamp of approval on Neil. Also, why you guys should be following him on Twitter, as well as Twitter handle on the screen right below him. And for sure, Neil getting started doing content in the industry, and has done really well as far as I could tell so far. Shows with me, shows without me. Neil, at first, he had said to me that he was a little nervous to do it. It's never played that way at all. So I think that you've been an excellent addition to our team, and I've enjoyed working with you. And also, once again, you guys should be following him on Twitter. Now, something else that I think makes this slate pretty interesting that's different from other slates, we have a lot of high upside quarterbacks that are cheap, have rushing potential, and aren't picking up all that much ownership, whether we're looking at guys like Cam Newton in particular, Jalen Hurts once again, or somebody like Taylor Heineke. What do you make of some of these quarterbacks who are rating out pretty positively in the boom bust tool, also are not picking up that much ownership, but there's kind of a lot of variance to them?
First of all, Greg, I appreciate the kind words, and I enjoy working with you as well. To answer your question, I'm going to be pretty spread out, I think. Once again, at quarterback, there are a lot of options that I really like. Cam Newton really does stand out as an option that I love. He's coming in at 5% projected ownership, and I was thinking that's got to come up. But now there are rumors that PJ Walker might have a role in the offense, which kind of confuses things. But I think that I'm going to let that sway other people off of Cam Newton. I'm going to stay on him. I think it lowers his floor maybe a little bit if we're actually concerned that PJ Walker is going to have any significant role. But I think his ceiling is still there at 5,100. I think that he is a great play. I'm going to have a lot of Cam Newton. How about you?
I feel like I need a little bit more information here. As of now, I'm going to be overweight to the field on him at the very least, because you look at his current projected ownership, he's only projected for 5% ownership. And it's funny. I had to go back through his game logs last year because I remember Cam Newton's season starting well and then being a little underwhelming going forward. But I didn't remember exactly the ins and outs of it. Something where also a lot of people just go, hey, watch the games, don't look at stats or whatever. Well, my memory isn't infallible. I don't remember every play of every game that's ever happened. That's what kind of helps with data, is to look back, because data doesn't forget stuff. It doesn't forget certain plays happen. And Cam Newton was pretty solid from a fantasy perspective last year. In terms of throwing the football, he didn't have a whole lot of upside last year. So in terms of stacking options, that becomes a concern. But he finished last year, week 17 against the Jets. He scored 38 fantasy points. He had a couple of other games also where he went over 30 fantasy points. And surely there was inconsistencies. His last 5 games of last season, 23 fantasy points, 5, 12, 9, 38. But that's kind of what we like for tournaments, especially when there isn't that much ownership going to him on FanDuel or DraftKings. So obviously with the PJ Walker thing, we need to get more information. If he's going to be that involved, it's going to take Cam Newton off the table for me. But as it currently stands, I like the upside there. The other question I'm going to ask you is, how are you going to be handling stacking him?
Yeah, so I think that I will generally stack him. I just will allow for the stack to be just Christian McCaffrey, because McCaffrey is so involved in the receiving game that I think that just the two of them could get there. You could run Cam out there naked, I guess. 5,100, he does have a little bit of rushing upside, but I think I'm more comfortable playing him with a stack. It just doesn't necessarily need to be a receiver for me. It can also be Christian McCaffrey. Maybe I'll have a few where it's just Cam, but I think I prefer him with some receiving options. What are you doing there?
I'm actually fine. He's so cheap that I'm fine playing him naked. And then also you look at the game he had last week, and he was kind of okay from a fantasy perspective. Like if you had just played Cam Newton as a quarterback last week, which obviously nobody would have done, it's like, hey, he's min price. He scored 12 fantasy points. He just paid up for a bunch of guys. On some weeks, that might not be the overall worst situation in the world. I think at the very least, he's going to be very involved in the red zone this week. I think that's something we'd say with a pretty good deal of confidence. And then once again, looking through his game logs from last year, even though he did have some fantasy success and upside, it generally wasn't throwing the football. He had a total of 2 weeks last year with 275 or more passing yards. So while stacking him, my favorite stacking option is actually going to be Christian McCaffrey as well. I also like Robbie Anderson a little bit because, hey, fool me. Why not fool me 8 times on that?
Just love the pain.
Yeah. He caught a touchdown pass last week. So, he pulls me back in just from him out. He pulls me back in. But just because Cam Newton had such limited success throwing the football in volume last year, and a lot of his fantasy points came from 1 yard runs or a 1 yard touchdown runs or a little bit of rushing upside, I think I'm only going to want to stack him with one of his pass catchers, and it's mostly going to be the Robbie Anderson or Christian McCaffrey for me.
Yeah, I think that you have swayed me a little bit. Maybe I will run a little bit more Cam without any pass catchers there. But it is a different offense, so we have to factor in that he's not playing with New England. He does have better receiving options than he had in New England. But yeah, you make a good point. He's cheap enough. He does run. If he's in the red zone, he could score some touchdowns. So I like to playing him by himself as well.
And then while we're on the topic still of something, usually we start with the high price guys and then we go to the cheap guys. But I thought it was kind of more important to talk about some of the cheap options to start this week, just because this is where all the positive leverage is being found at the quarterback position. Our tools right now is these cheaper quarterbacks with some rushing upside, like we mentioned, Cam Newton, Jalen Hurts, Taylor Heineke, Tua Tagovailoa looks good once again this week. He's looked good a few times this year. And, if you're a really cheap quarterback, it doesn't take that much to end up having a good slate. If you get a 5,000, 5,500 quarterback that goes out and puts up 20 fantasy points, and then just a bunch of the high priced options end up doing well on the slate, there's a pretty good chance that cheap quarterback is going to wind up in some pretty high scoring lineups. So who else stands out to you amongst this cheaper tier of quarterbacks?
Yeah, Tua really stands out. Only projected for 7% ownership, but 16.3% boom probability, 10% optimal lineup probability. I really like that. You can pair him with Jalen Waddle, Mike Gesicki, some solid receiving options. So I'm really liking Tua against the Jets. Baker Mayfield a little bit. So he's only projected for 2.8% ownership with a 5.2% boom probability, 3.4% optimal lineup probability. But actually, what I really wanted to point out with Baker Mayfield is his price on Yahoo. On Yahoo, Baker Mayfield is only $23 and Jarvis Landry is $13. So for $36, you can have a pretty solid pair there against the Lions. That's only 18% of your salary on Yahoo, which would be the equivalent of if Baker Mayfield was 5,000 and Jarvis Landry is 4,000 on DraftKings. So I really like them on Yahoo in particular. Trevor Siemian, I have just a tiny bit of interest in, only because he's projected for 0.2% ownership. So that kind of with a 1.7% boom probability. So it's a somewhat thin play, but in a 150 set, I would definitely have a little bit of Trevor Siemian. Taylor Heineke, as you mentioned, he looks good for in the tools every week, and he comes through a lot of the time. I mean, he's a pretty solid option at 5,300. Does a little bit with his legs, does a lot more through the air, and he's always cheap. So against the Panthers, I think he is a solid option. I'd say those are, of the cheap guys, I think those are my favorites. Do you have anybody else that you like better than that group?
Not really. I don't know that I'm going to be on Siemian. Once again, if you play him in 1 out of 150 lineups, you're overweight to the field at that point because he's so low owned. So from that standpoint, sure, I'm not going to argue that he has a place potentially in the optimal lineup. In terms of potentially being optimal, I don't think I'm going to ultimately get to him though. But yeah, for me, the ones I like the most are Tua, because as much as Miami doesn't like him, he's shown some actual upside. He's been on the field. The big issue has just been, does he stay on the field? He gets hurt a lot, but as of right now, he's healthy. So I like getting to Tua. My two favorite are Tua and Cam Newton as of right now. And then Cam Newton, obviously subject to change if we get more news on PJ Walker potentially playing more. Now, I want to ask you about the high-priced options at quarterback now. And I have to start by asking this. Are the Chiefs back? Is Patrick Mahomes good again? Not that he was terrible before, but it had clearly been an underwhelming season relative to expectations, and a couple of wins in a row for the Kansas City Chiefs. And I think it's possible they've turned the season around. Now, just easily, maybe they stink this week and we all go, oh, look, we fell for the bait and this team is actually not really all that good. But what is your gut feeling here? Do you think the Chiefs are back to being an elite team, and is Patrick Mahomes an elite fantasy quarterback?
I think so. I mean, I've been saying all year that I think Patrick Mahomes at some point is going to turn it around. A lot of the issues have just been, balls bouncing off his receivers' hands into the defender's hands. And I think a lot of it has not really been Patrick Mahomes' fault. Maybe he's been a little bit off, but he's looked pretty good still. So I really like Patrick Mahomes. The Cowboys defense is much improved this year. So, you don't love that, but the Chiefs can do it against any defense. Patrick Mahomes now is the third most expensive quarterback on the slate. You love that. He's usually the most expensive. So people have been scared off by him enough that he has come down a little bit. And now it's in a game that it's at least expected to be kind of a shootout. So you love that game environment. Chiefs against the Cowboys defense should still be able to put up a lot of points. And the Cowboys against the Chiefs terrible defense should also be able to put up a lot of points. So I feel like there could be at least a lot of scoring in this game, and I like going to it. Of course, it also kind of reminds me of the Chiefs-Titans game where everybody was way over everybody stacked up on it. And then Alex said, well, a little bit of caution. These games sometimes disappoint, and he didn't. He kind of faded the game, and then of course there was no scoring, so that can happen. But I would expect there to be high scoring in the Chiefs Cowboys game. How do you like it? Do you think that Patrick Mahomes is back?
I'm willing to. I'm going to be playing my lineups as if Patrick Mahomes is back this week. Is he actually back? It remains to be seen. But who definitely does seem to think that Patrick Mahomes and Chiefs are back are sports books, because the total for this game is set at 56.5. And this is not a week with very many high scoring games. So the 56.5 point total, Chiefs at home against the Cowboys. Second highest total of the week, Raiders at home against the Bengals at 50.5. And then you've got the Bills at home against the Colts at 49.5. There's not that many games that are expected to be high scoring. So certainly if I'm looking at games to stack, and by the way, I'm not, reinventing the wheel here. A lot of people are going to be thinking along the same line. So I don't want to make it seem like I've got some galaxy brain take here. The total in this game is almost a touchdown higher than any other game on the entire slate. That's something that's really hard for me to avoid. And I'm going to be very heavy on this game.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. And there's a lot of different ways you can go too. I mean, you got Tyreek Hill, you've got Travis Kelce, and then on the Cowboys there are several good options as well. So it's a pretty easy game to get to. I was a little bit disappointed to see that the tools don't really like Dak Prescott. He actually looks a little bit over-owned at 6.7% in the tools. I still am probably going to get there some. I might get there, similar to the field. He's only got according the Boom Bust tool has him at a 4.8% boom probability, 4% optimal lineup probability. You don't love that when those numbers are under the projected ownership, but 6.4% top stack probability, like you said, it's the highest scoring game on the slate, projected to be by far. So kind of like getting there as well. Do you think you're going to play any Dak?
Yeah, probably. One thing that is nice about Dak is there's no Cooper this week. And you and I have talked about this a lot this year. In general, is Amari Cooper being out good for Dak Prescott individually? No, not really. But it's good for his stacking options. Like, I have to imagine if this game is high scoring and stays competitive, there's a massive game in store for CeeDee Lamb. So it's really easy to kind of figure out where some of the targets are going towards in the Cowboys offense. So like Michael Gallup looks better. And that's how I kind of view a lot of Dallas right now. And overall, top stack, we only have them with a 6.4% chance of being the top scoring team of the slate. Like you said, in terms of the boom bust tool, Dak Prescott's looking a little bit over-owned. But yeah, I'm still going to be getting to at least a decent clip of this game. At the very least, the Chiefs side, I'm going to be very heavy on. I anticipate Patrick Mahomes being one of my, if not my most rostered quarterback. And even in lineups that don't have either of the quarterbacks, I'm probably going to be getting a lot of, like Cooper Hill combinations or something along those lines, just where I'm going to be trying to make secondary stacks of that game to try to generate upside. It's really hard for me to ignore the total. Yeah,
I agree with you. It looks like a great game. There should be a lot of scoring. Two very good quarterbacks, great quarterbacks. So it's a game that I'm going to be getting to a lot as well. How are you thinking about the Bengals Raiders game? I have a little bit of interest in both of those quarterbacks. Derek Carr, 7.2% projected ownership, 9% boom probability. You like that, but then only a 6.6% optimal lineup probability, 3.9% top stack probability. 5,900 though against the Bengals in what should be a high scoring game. I kind of like Derek Carr, and then Joe Burrow does not look great in the tools, but again, it's a high scoring game. 7.4% projected ownership, but then like I said, 3.6% boom probability, 2.5% optimal lineup probability, 5.6% top stack probability. Do you think you're going to play either of those quarterbacks, or do you think you'll get to some other options in the game, the receivers, running backs? Is there anybody that you like in that game? I guess we're talking quarterbacks. So let's start with the quarterback. Do you like Burrow or Carr?
Not really. And here's the actual number one. Like you said, these are two quarterbacks. They're both looking a little bit over-owned to us. And then once again, you look at our top stacks tool. We have Cincinnati at 5.6% chance to be the top scoring stack of the slate. Las Vegas, 3.9% chance. Everything is kind of making it look like not the best spot in the world, despite the fact the total is fairly high in this game. It's not nearly as high as the total in, say, the Chiefs-Cowboys game. And then look at some of the pivot options we have, too. We just talked about liking Cam Newton and Tua Tagovailoa relative to their prices for this weekend. So Derek Carr, for instance, we have him with 7.2% projected ownership, 6.6% chance to land the optimal lineup. We have Cam Newton and Tua, who are both cheaper, with less ownership and a higher percentage chance to land in the optimal lineup. So I just kind of look at all that, and is there upside there? Clearly, yes, but I don't know this is a spot that I'm going to get to very often because there's other plays I like more in this price range at QB.
Yep, that makes sense to me, and I agree with you. I'm going to be getting to more of Tua and Cam Newton than Derek Carr and Joe Burrow. They're guys that I don't want to completely fade them. I'll have some, but yeah, I'm going to get to more of those cheaper guys that just look better in the tools, and you kind of want to take advantage. So yeah, I think I'm in agreement with you there. Although maybe I'll have a little bit more than you of Carr and Burrow.
And then anything else really stand out to you from a quarterback position? Just to kind of recap, I really like, we didn't really talk that much about Jalen Hurts, but you and I both liked him pretty much every week as of recent. I'm going to like him again a lot this week. So him in the mid-range, Newton and Tua for cheap, Taylor Heineke to a lesser extent. I like paying up for Patrick Mahomes. Anything else in that group that we should really be talking about here?
Yeah, I agree with you about Jalen Hurts. We didn't touch on him, but he looks great in the tools. Ryan Tannehill looks okay to me. I'll probably have some Tannehill against the Texans and just hope they do it through the air instead of on the ground in those lineups. Joe Flacco, they talked about him a little bit on the Contrary show yesterday. Alex and Whistles Go. That was a fun show. But he's got 3.1% projected ownership, 8.1% boom probability, 4.3% optimal lineup probability. You like that. And then he's got a few good stacking options that we'll talk about later in Corey Davis and Jamison Crowder. I would prefer if he was the cheapest viable quarterback on the slate. Tim Boyle now comes in at 4,000, and maybe you have to think about him, but 0.4% projected ownership for Tim Boyle with a 1.5% boom probability. You probably don't want to go too crazy there. It's positive leverage, but it's still an unlikely play to pan out. But who knows? Stranger things have happened. I'll probably have a couple of shares of Tim Boyle at least, just to get over that 0.4% projected ownership.
Yeah, I wish Joe Flacco was, well, you know what would make Joe Flacco more valuable is if defensive pass interferences counted as fantasy points, because Joe Flacco's made an entire career out of just underthrowing deep balls, and the wide receivers to come back to catch it, runs into a cornerback, gets called for a defensive pass interference. I don't know what the numbers are if somebody tracks that, but that has to be like the majority or a massive chunk of the offense that his teams have accumulated over the last 8 years or so of his career. I'd actually be interested if anybody has that information to shoot it over to me, a site that has it, because at least based on the eye test, which once again, like I said before, I don't have an infallible memory. There's things I forget. It seems like that's where a lot of his offenses have had success over the years, just long, deep pass interference penalties. I don't know that I'm going to be getting to Joe. Actually, I'm pretty sure I'm not really going to be getting to Joe Flacco. Once again, I get that he's low owned and whatnot, but the Jets suck. He's been terrible for years, and he was basically not in the league in terms of an actual standpoint of getting on the field. Now all of a sudden he's thrust in the mix because Zach Wilson's been hurt and played poorly. We had the legend Mike White comes out, and apparently he's not the best quarterback of all time. He's benched in favor of Joe Flacco. I have to think there's a reason that nobody wants to give this guy opportunities anymore.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I don't want to go overboard on Joe Flacco. It's just the price tag and the game environment isn't too terrible. I mean, they're expected to score 20 points. Their implied team total, I should say, is 20.5 points. So they're expected to, put up some points. Stranger things have happened. If we would just take maybe one touchdown, I think that he could do it. So I'll take a couple shots, but yeah, I'm not getting overboard. Not too excited about playing Joe Flacco.
All right, so let's move over to the running backs now. And I want to start by talking about the chalk of the position. That is going to be A.J. Dillon, who we know the situation there with the running back situation in Green Bay. No Aaron Jones for now. And A.J. Dillon's kind of been cutting into Aaron Jones' playing time as is. But we now have A.J. Dillon very reasonably priced on DraftKings and FanDuel this week. $7,000 on FanDuel. He is $6,200 on DK. Is he going to be somebody who appears in your lineups a lot this weekend?
Yeah, if the numbers stay as they are right now. So there's a good chance that A.J. Dillon's projected ownership comes up a bit. And I should say, I'll have some of A.J. Dillon either way. Unless he's going to be projected for 90% ownership, then I might full fade him, but I'm not expecting that. Currently, we have him projected for 20.5% projected ownership, 24% boom probability, 25% optimal add-on probability. So as is, with the projected ownership at just 20.5%, I would want to be over the field to A.J. Dillon, maybe get up to 30% or I don't know, some higher number than 20%. He's just in a great spot against the Vikings, 6,200, the lead back. I'm expecting big things from A.J. Dillon. So if his projected ownership stays this low, I'm definitely going to be interested in A.J. Dillon. How about you?
Almost rostered running back in the current, not that I have an actual current build right now, but just the other day when I was building dummy lineups, he was the running back that appeared most often for me. I assume that is going to be the case, especially these current numbers. So like you said, we currently have him projected for 20% ownership on DraftKings. On FanDuel, he's projected for 18% ownership. Much too low numbers for A.J. Dillon and the kind of spot that he's in, especially when there aren't that many running backs that I'm dying to get to. There aren't that many guys who I look at as super obvious plays, and apparently the field doesn't either because, like I said, A.J. Dillon currently projected for the most ownership at the position, right around 20%. We've seen other weeks. Dearness Johnson last week ends up being 50% owned. And we've had a lot of those kind of situations lately, but not really one this week. I think A.J. Dillon should be that guy, although he's not currently projected to have the ownership of that kind of play. So I certainly want to be overweight to the field on him. But you mentioned earlier there's a lot of mid-range plays that you like this week. I assume that you're referring to some of these guys at the running back position. So what are the names that you have in mind there?
So James Conner looks decent again. I mean, projected for 16.1% ownership. So he has slightly negative leverage with a 15.3% boom probability, 15.1% optimal lineup probability, but you're still going to get there. I mean, just because he's slightly negative leverage doesn't mean that you want to fully fade him. He's still a great play at 6,100 against the Seahawks without Chase Edmonds involved. So I'll be getting to some James Conner. Myles Gaskin looks okay. Similar situation. So he's slight negative leverage, 13% projected ownership, 11.3% boom probability, 11.6% optimal lineup probability, but he's 5,700 as the lead running back against the Jets. You have to like that. So I'll be getting to some Myles Gaskin. And then David Montgomery is really interesting to me. He looks great in the boom bust tool. So he's 9.9% projected ownership, 17% boom probability, and 18.9% optimal lineup probability. He came back and played on November 8th, and he only had 13 carries in that game, but I think that was just kind of the way the game went. Khalil Herbert only had 4. So you think David Montgomery is probably going to retake his workhorse role in that offense. And although you don't love the matchup against the Ravens, he can still do it. He's getting he should get enough work to still do really well for 5,500 against the Ravens. And then I'll just throw out there. I guess I got a few more to throw out there in the mid range. So Mark Ingram could look interesting. I'm going to kind of wait to see how the boom bust tool looks with him. I'm not sure that his ownership has been updated yet. Usually we'll get an update within the next couple hours in the boom bust tool. So we'll see where Mark Ingram looks at 5,400 as the lead back against the Eagles. Something to keep in mind. The field is going to Darrell Williams. So we talked about that game environment a bit. It's a great game environment, but he's projected for 16.6% ownership. So he's a guy with a 6.7% boom probability, 7.3% optimal lineup probability. So that's pretty massive negative leverage for Darrell Williams. He's not somebody I'm super interested in, but he's a guy that you could go to, I guess. And then the others that I wanted to mention, I guess let's stop there. Let's see. Do you have anything you want to say about those? And then I'll get into some slightly cheaper guys.
I want to talk about Darrell Williams because I'm kind of confused by the ownership right now, just from this standpoint. He's been terrific the last few weeks. I think off the top of my head, actually, he might even be a top 5 PPR scoring running back since. By the way, can you hear that in the background?
I can.
Yeah, there's an electrician. I don't know if he just fell down the steps or something, but yeah, there's a big bang. Something's going on behind me. The other day I was doing a show. He just he walked in and just appeared on the show. But hopefully,
Nice.
hopefully everything's okay behind me.
I'd like to meet him.
You just might. So the Darrell Williams situation, he's been really good ever since Clyde Edwards-Helaire got hurt. But Clyde Edwards-Helaire is expected to return this week. We don't know that for sure yet, but the last update that we got from Andy Reid is that he returned to practice. He's looking good in practice. He's trending towards playing. So with that in mind, I have to assume that he's either going to be the starting running back for the Chiefs or he's going to massively cut into the workload of Darrell Williams. So I just don't think this is a spot where Darrell Williams should be picking up nearly 16% ownership. How are you looking at, and I know you've already said you think that he's way overowned as is, but how are you looking at a potential role for Clyde Edwards-Helaire affecting Williams?
Yeah, so I think that the tools right now just maybe haven't accounted for Clyde Edwards-Helaire coming back yet. So again, I expect we'll have to pay attention to the tools on this one. I also think that his ownership will come down because some of these other options around him have just become more appealing throughout the week. So I think that in the tools, most likely the ownership on Darrell Williams will come down a lot. If it remains this high and we learn that Clyde Edwards-Helaire is back, then yeah, he's probably just a full fade. It's a little bit scary because it is, a high scoring game environment. He's 5,400. Wouldn't take that much for him to get there, but there are so many options around him that I like better. That if he does stay at this at the 16.6% projected ownership, I might full fade him. I might just take that risk against the Cowboys. I mean, especially if Clyde Edwards-Helaire comes back and is a starter, then obviously it's a full fade. But if not, I still might do it if the ownership stays this high. I think it's going to come down.
Yeah, I think that I think it should come down. If it doesn't, then I'm certainly going to be happy to not play him this week. But my assumption is that Clyde Edwards-Helaire plays. If that's the case, Chiefs backfield, something I'm not really going to want to have that much to do with. I'm going to focus on the Chiefs passing game in that game against the Cowboys. And it's not to say that it's not a good game environment. It clearly is. And I think the guys individually, maybe they have upside. I just don't know what to expect from workload. So that's going to be keeping me away from it. But I want to ask you what we're making of Christian McCaffrey this weekend, because working his way back from a hamstring injury, we know about his long history of injuries. He looked back to being his normal Christian McCaffrey role last week. Catches 10 passes for 66 yards, runs for another 95 yards. Now we've got Cam Newton at quarterback. And it's funny, I've seen some people online have takes of like, oh, what is Cam Newton going to do for Christian McCaffrey?
Time is what we make it. A single moment can be
as if McCaffrey can't produce. Like, we've seen McCaffrey be the number one fantasy player for forever with Cam Newton as his quarterback. We've seen this situation play out before, and it was no issue for McCaffrey. So I think, if anything, this is a good situation for McCaffrey because we've seen him succeed with Newton. In terms of our projections, I think we might be a little bit light on McCaffrey just for my own personal preference, because I don't think there's any kind of restriction on Christian McCaffrey. I think he's full go. And the last time we've seen Christian McCaffrey healthy, he's been a running back who's priced $10K on DK, $10K on FanDuel. Actually, Christian McCaffrey quite a bit more than what our projections and our tools have for him. But how do you feel about him?
Yeah, I mean, I really like it. We saw him get there last week or get close to there without scoring a touchdown, without getting the 100-yard bonuses. I think he got to like 95 rush yards or something. He was right there and then got pulled from the game. So yeah, he's just got such high volume that it's really hard for Christian McCaffrey to not at least get to, 25 fantasy points. He just gets there every week, it seems like, as long as he doesn't get hurt. So yeah, he's got a really safe floor. And with Christian McCaffrey, all it would take, he just has to get in the end zone once or twice or get those bonuses. He can do it rushing and receiving. So yeah, Christian McCaffrey is definitely one of the highest floor plays. He might be a great cash play. I guess I don't play. I shouldn't even comment on cash. This isn't a cash show. I don't play cash, but he's got a high floor, and I think that the ceiling is there too. So yeah, I really like Christian McCaffrey. His price did come up a little bit. The thing that so that these are the negatives. The price came up. I think it was 8,000 last week. He's up to 8,900 now. And then the ownership came up significantly. It's up to 18.4% projected ownership. Like you said, so you were saying that you think that he will look better, or he looks better to you in terms of his likely output. So maybe you're disagreeing a little bit with the 11.6% boom probability, 9.2% optimal lineup probability. You'd like those to be higher, but would you have them high enough that he would be a positive leverage play at 18.4% projected ownership?
Yeah, so I think it's kind of hard to just project the numbers for Christian McCaffrey because he's been hurt so much this year. He was hurt last year. It's a new quarterback situation. But ultimately, in these situations, and I've talked about this for football, I've talked about it for basketball, I've talked about it for baseball, hard with pitchers, with hitters, but I do with pitchers. But I really like to look at historical pricing in these kind of situations. And Christian McCaffrey at 8,900 the last time he was healthy. If you told me Christian McCaffrey was going to be 8,900 in 2019, he would have been like 40% owned. This is a guy who was already picking up massive ownership, priced over 10K on DK just a couple of years ago. And I think that there's a little bit of sticker shock because, like you said, oh, he's more expensive than he was last week. He's much cheaper than he was 2 years ago, though. And I don't think anything's changed from 2 years ago, other than there's been times where he's been injured, but he's healthy now. So I'm not too concerned for DFS if he's going to stay healthy or not. Is it going to be an issue next week? Perhaps, but he's healthy right now. So that's where I really have to rely on, for me personally, just some of that historical pricing. And from that standpoint, I have to say that I think he's underpriced. Yeah,
so I like it. I like he looks like a great play. He's the kind of guy, like, if you can get to Christian McCaffrey, you're going to play him. So I imagine that I'm guessing I'll be a little bit under the field at 18%, just because there are other running backs that I really like for a lot cheaper. So that's part of it for me too, is just the position. I feel like it's pretty stacked in the mid and cheaper range. So that's going to keep me from going too crazy on Christian McCaffrey, but I haven't run my lineups yet. So maybe I could get there. He's not somebody that I'm going to shy away from unless I'm getting 50% in my crunches. I'm probably not going to try to get away from Christian McCaffrey. He's definitely a running back that I'd like to get to. He's just not. I'm not expecting to get too overboard on him just because there are so many other running backs that I like that are cheaper.
All right, so walk me through some of those other running backs then. And I know we talked about some of them, but let's say the slate was locking in 30 minutes. Who are the guys you think you would have the most exposure to outside of A.J. Dillon?
Yeah, so first I'll just walk down a little bit the more expensive guys. Jonathan Taylor looks okay. We've talked about, I've said that I like to get different, to find contrarian plays. Sometimes I like to find good fantasy players that are in bad spots. That's a way that it drives down the ownership, but he's still got the ceiling, and I think Jonathan Taylor's in kind of one of those spots. So he's somebody I have some interest in. Delvin Cook looks fine, project for 11.3% ownership. I'm not going to go too crazy there, but I won't be too far into the field, I don't think. Nick Chubb against the Lions is somebody that I'm really intrigued by. If he does take back his full role, he's recovering from COVID. I haven't seen any, like, if he has actual symptoms, if he tested positive is symptom free, or if he's actually suffered a little bit, but he's coming back pretty quick. So I'm assuming he's symptom free. So Nick Chubb at 7,800 against the Lions interests me for sure. That's a spot where it is an inexpensive price tag for Nick Chubb, but it's against the Lions, so I think it's kind of warranted. That's not going to scare me off too much. If you're afraid of Nick Chubb coming back from COVID, maybe not getting that full workload, I think that there's some merit to playing Dearness Johnson again, 5,600 again against the Lions. If he takes on that Kareem Hunt role, which I feel like he's earned it, he's looked really good. It wouldn't be too shocking to see him. He doesn't look that great in the tools. He's projected for a 0.4% ownership with a 0.2% boom probability, 0.4% optimal lineup probability. I think this is a spot where I think the tools just can't really account for maybe the roles have changed, right? Like sometimes you got to add that human element a little bit. And I think that there's at least a chance that Dearness Johnson has earned that Kareem Hunt role. Do you think there's a chance there?
Yeah, I mean, as long as there is no Kareem Hunt, it's probably going to be Dearness Johnson. Like you said, there is still some uncertainty with Nick Chubb. Being honest, in the most recent build, I mean, I got to 0% of Dearness Johnson, but based on, the price, no ownership, FanDuel's 8,000, so I wouldn't consider him there. But DK at 5,400, yeah, I wouldn't mind getting to 5% or some small share just because he's so low owned, and the upside is apparent if you just think of the logic of it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you saw Kareem Hunt in this spot at 0.4% projected ownership, I'm guessing most of us would be well over the field on that. So I'm going to take some shots. I mean, we can't make any real assumptions there, but I think it's an interesting play at least. And then Joe Mixon, the last of the guys that I'll just touch on above the ones that I've already talked about, project for 5.8% ownership, but an 8.4% boom probability, 7.9% optimal lineup probability. I have interest there. But then we'll get down to the guys that I'm really interested in, who really intrigue me here. Jeff Wilson against the Jaguars. So Elijah Mitchell is out. Jeff Wilson is 5,100 as the lead back against the Jaguars. It's hard for me not to really like that. He's currently projected for 6.1% ownership, but I think we'll have to check back when the tools do update. I'm guessing that's going to come up significantly now that Elijah Mitchell is ruled out, but Jeff Wilson is the lead back for the 49ers. At least I assume he's going to be the lead back for the 49ers. He was used a lot more than I expected in their last game. Now Elijah Mitchell's out, so I'm expecting him to just take over as the lead back. Obviously, the injury risk with Jeff Wilson always scares me, but the upside is apparent for 5,100 against the Jaguars. Do you have any interest in Jeff Wilson?
Absolutely. I think Jeff Wilson makes a whole lot of sense. And there are a whole lot of running backs in this mid-range that I like. Mark Ingram, another one you didn't mention, 5,400 on DK, 6,800 on FanDuel. There's going to be no Alvin Kamara this week. And most recent round of ownership, we have Mark Ingram projected for 4% ownership on FanDuel, 7% on DK. Did he look great last week? No, not really, but it didn't stop the Saints from giving him the ball a whole bunch. And that's kind of what I care the most about. So last week, was he efficient? No. Was there times where I looked, I was like, boy, I wish I didn't play Mark Ingram? Absolutely. But end of the game, he finished with over 20 DraftKings points. He had 14 carries for 47 yards, but so what? He scored a touchdown. He also had 7 targets in the passing game. So does it really matter if he sucks? Kind of, except if they're going to keep giving him the ball anyway, then what does it really matter too much? I mean, 7 targets and then red zone attempts, 14 carries. That's probably enough for him to look pretty good on both DK and FanDuel low ownership. So I'm going to be going back to Mark Ingram. It worked out last week, even if it probably shouldn't have, and the field isn't there this week.
Yeah. So yeah, these are guys that I'm Mark Ingram, Jeff Wilson. I think they both look great. They're both lead backs in situations where they should have plenty of volume. So yeah, I think I'm really interested. And then coming down a little bit, I'm curious. So Alex Collins looks really good. Now Chris Carson ruled out for the year. Alex Collins looks pretty good in the tool. 6.3% projected ownership with a 6.6% boom probability, 9.2% optimal lineup probability. As the lead back at 5,000, I definitely have some interest in Alex Collins. And then coming down to the last two that I'm really interested in right now are, and I don't know what to make of it. I think D'Onta Foreman is the one that I would have thought is the running back I'd want to get to for the Titans against the Texans. The tools don't really agree with that though. So they have, D'Onta Foreman, 4,900 against the Texans, 6.5% projected ownership, 5.7% boom probability, 6.7% optimal lineup probability. But then Adrian Peterson at 4,800, 1.6% projected ownership with an 8.9% boom probability and a 9.9% optimal lineup probability. So based on that, you'd want to get to a lot more Adrian Peterson than D'Onta Foreman. I think I'm probably going to split it a little bit more even than the tools would suggest here, but maybe I should just be following the tools. I don't know. What are you doing with those two?
Priceline works with top hotels to sell their unsold rooms, saving you up to 60%. Ah, yes, the parental delegate.
The 11 carries for D'Onta Foreman last week, 8 for Adrian Peterson, 4 for Jeremy McNichols. It is really hard for me to invest money in a 3 running back situation because we could say right here we go. Is it going to be Foreman? Is it going to be Peterson? My gut feeling is Foreman, but it could be Jeremy McNichols also.
Well, McNichols is out this week.
Oh, is he? I missed that.
Yeah.
So that does change it a little bit, but still, it's multiple running backs considered. By the way, Peterson's so washed at this point in his career.
I know.
Like you watch him play, and it's like he's running in a pool. Like his legs are moving, but he doesn't really go anywhere. I don't like these situations really where there's multiple running backs considered, and it's not like they're that cheap. We've got Adrian Peterson right now on FanDuel at 5,700, and Foreman is at 6,200. Then over on DK, Peterson is 4,800. I mean, obviously that's still cheap, but I would prefer him if he was mid price. There's no receiving upside with Adrian Peterson. And then Foreman's 4,900, a little more receiving upside there. But it's just going to kind of be a stay away for me unless we get some kind of definitive report that, hey, Foreman's going to start. He's going to be the guy, or else I'm going to assume that it's a time split that leads a little bit more towards Peterson because of the game script, and he just sucks.
Yeah, and that makes sense. Like I said, I have some interest just because they're cheap enough for me that in a positive game script where they should be rushing a lot towards the end of the game, you'd expect them to beat the Texans. The Texans are a pretty bad defense, so I just think they should be able to put up points if they do it on the ground. I feel like it's going to be one of these two. Obviously, these are the 2 remaining running backs, so I have more interest than I would if Jeremy McNichols was there. Maybe I don't want to get too crazy, but I mean, we'll have to check as the tools update closer to lock, but currently I would definitely have some interest at these projected ownership numbers. And then just the one last running back that I would touch on is Carlos Hyde. If James Robinson is ruled out at 4,400, the Niners defense is kind of tough. I wouldn't go too overboard, but he does have receiving upside. So even if they get crushed by the Niners, he could still get there just through the air. So I'd have some interest there. That's kind of all the running backs that I wanted to talk about. Is there anybody else that you wanted to touch on?
No, I think running back's a pretty loaded position this week. There's guys on the high end that make sense. And so for me, if I had to roster one expensive option for me this weekend, it's going to be Christian McCaffrey. But my favorite plays are a lot of those guys in the mid 5K range that we talked about, or into the low 6K range. AJ Dillon, Mark Ingram.
All right, it's break time. So we've got doing good in cash. We're up $1.32 in cash. Didn't expect to do that well. We got some good situations. We got paid off with slightly better hands, and then we're doing pretty bad not bad. I mean, we're close to cashing there, but we're in third to last place, so that's going to be tight trying to cash on this one. And then we're doing great in this $0.27 tournament. We're in second place. That actually has a pretty big payout. If we actually finished in second place, it'd be $15. We'll see if that happens. And then we've got it's 55-cent tournament. And we've got around slightly above average stack. Doing okay there. It's going just fine there. We're about to end registration also, so then we'll start playing elimination. Alright. Oh, you don't get a break from cash though unless you sit out. We're gonna sit out here for 5 minutes. Be back in a minute. 5 minutes.
Ingram again. So I think there's a whole lot of guys that really stand out in that salary, and really all the guys that we covered there. Also, if you guys haven't done it already, do us a favor, like this video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Who knows? Maybe in the future I'll be wearing a hat. There's a possibility I'll go out and purchase one. I know there's been rumors of a fedora, a cowboy hat. Who knows what it's going to be? Maybe we'll let the audience have a little bit of input on that. Also, you guys can go sign up over at No House Advantage right now and take advantage of the promo code we have, because if you use the promo code AWESEMO, get up to a $25 deposit bonus using that sign-up code. And over at No House Advantage, totally different way to play daily fantasy sports. They have prop-based contests, really fun. I do shows usually on Wednesdays with sometimes with Aton, sometimes with Kaufman. And we just build some lineups looking at No House Advantage and different props they have there to talk about. It's a fun, different way to play daily fantasy sports, and I get involved with some props as well. All right, let's head on over to the wide receivers now. And I want to start by asking you about A.J. Brown, because I thought that A.J. Brown was going to have obviously I thought he was going to do better than last week, because he couldn't have done much worse than he did last week. But he does appear to be one of the wide receivers that looks more positively in our tools, at least on FanDuel for this week, where we have him with a 22% chance to land in the optimal lineup, 19% ownership share. Over on DK, a little more neutral, 13.6% ownership, 12.7% chance to land in the optimal lineup. But I was super high on A.J. Brown last week. It did not work out. I'm getting to him again this week. Should I be concerned?
I don't think so. I'm going to be playing some AJ Brown as well. I mean, he looks great in the tools. He's got positive leverage. I guess he has slightly negative leverage in terms of optimal lineup probability on DraftKings, but positive in terms of boom probability. The price tag is high, should drive ownership down. He's projected for 13.6% ownership, but he is the number one option there for sure. Against the Texans, they should be putting up points. I like, Tannehill can put up some points. So yeah, I like AJ Brown as a play today. He's one of the high-end receivers that I would definitely expect to get to at least about even with the field, maybe right around 15%. He's projected for 13.6% ownership. So I'm not going way over the field, but I think that I'll be at least close to the field on AJ Brown. I like the play.
And then in terms of the high-end receivers, because a lot of them do look, kind of about neutral, is there anyone you look at as being like, oh, I need to be overweight or I need to prioritize this one certain payout receiver? Is there anybody like that for you?
Not really. I mean, they all look good, but the ownership is getting there. So I'm going to have some Devontae Adams. I'm going to have some Tyreek Hill. They both look about neutral, like you said, but I'll be mixing them in right about even with the field, I think. Deebo Samuel looks great in the tools. I'm always a little bit afraid to play Deebo Samuel, and I don't know why, because he just keeps doing it. So I think maybe he's the one that you want to get over the field on. He's only projected for 13% ownership, but a 20.1% boom probability, 17.4% optimal lineup probability. That's just really good. So I think that I'll probably get well over the field on Deebo. You can get to, the Dallas receivers we talked about a little bit. CeeDee Lamb looks okay, but again, pretty neutral. Yeah, none of them are really standing out as guys that I want to get well over the field on. I think Deebo would probably be the most. Is there anybody that I'm missing there among the high-end receivers that you think that you'd like to get well over the field on?
I don't know that I would say well over the field on, but DK Metcalf is one that kind of stands out to me, as does Tyler Lockett. And we could just talk about the Seahawks guys all together right here. Russell Wilson looked terrible last week, and I know do you see all those hype videos that were coming out about him during the week where it was like, look, he's doing all these finger exercises, working on his finger 19 hours a day. And I'm like, okay, that's a little weird, but whatever. There was all these things about Russell Wilson and how he was ready to play and that he's doing all these crazy finger exercises, and it finally has him, looking much healthier than he was supposed to. He wasn't supposed to be back for another 3 weeks, and then you watch the game, it's like, well, maybe he shouldn't have been back when he did come back. But with that said, he's on the field, and I have to think that Russell Wilson in this offense generates a lot more upside than Geno Smith does. And even if Russell Wilson isn't my favorite individual quarterback on the slate, we've got Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf both way cheaper than they normally are with Russell Wilson at quarterback. And people really aren't rostering them that heavily. So Those are two wide receivers that I want to get overweight to the field on, just because we know they have such immense upside. And I feel like the Seahawks are just totally getting slept on because of how bad Wilson looked last week.
Yeah, so first of all, if I want to get hyped up about Russell Wilson, I just watched the Mr. Unlimited video on repeat. Are you familiar with the Mr. Unlimited video?
Yeah, just it's weird, like unlimited, and he's walking around his house saying Mr. Unlimited, and the whole thing doesn't make sense. But
maybe the corniest video of all time. So if you want to get hyped for Russell Wilson, go find the Mr. Unlimited video. But yeah, I was going to touch on these guys next. I am excited to play both DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. They both look great in the tools. Tyler Lockett in this same matchup last year won me $1 million. So can't really fade him here. 9.2% projected ownership for Tyler Lockett, 13.5% boom probability, 14.2% optimal lineup probability. Have to love that. I love both these guys. And last year, if you want to look at pass production, which I know isn't something that's too valuable, but in case you're interested in past matchups, last year against the Cardinals, Tyler Lockett had 15 receptions for 200 yards and 3 touchdowns in the first game, and in the second game had 9 receptions for 67 yards and a touchdown. So he's done really well in this matchup. I don't know if there's a reason that Tyler Lockett has stood out in these games more than DK Metcalf, but they're both just cheap enough. And yeah, I think that Russell Wilson is probably going to come back and be Russell Wilson again. So I like them both a lot in this matchup.
Yeah, so I'm just looking for some of those upside wide receivers that aren't really picking up much ownership. Those would be two of them. And then, who rates out really well for us this week? He's rated out really well the last couple of weeks. It hasn't gone particularly well. Jarvis Landry, not getting targeted downfield really at all. He remains cheap. Obviously, there's still no Odell Beckham in this situation. I'm starting to think, though, that Odell Beckham just isn't going to have that much of an impact on Jarvis Landry's role in the Browns offense. It's still the same amount of targets that are going to him. There's still really short depth of targets, so it's not like it's creating that much upside. But he's still cheap. He's not picking up that much ownership. If I had to roster from one side, it would be DK over FanDuel just because of the PPR bonus. But what are you doing with Jarvis Landry? Because I know you really like the boom bust tool, and he does rate out really positively, but he's not really shown anything that makes me feel like I should be getting to him a whole bunch over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, so if you liked my game logs reference, you're really going to love my narrative reference. So the squeaky wheel reference is in play here. Squeaky wheel narrative. Jarvis Landry this week expressed displeasure with this role, and Baker Mayfield vowed to get him more involved. So take that for what it's worth. Typically, I probably wouldn't factor it in too much, but in this case, Jarvis Landry, 5,100 against the Lions on DraftKings, 8.7% projected ownership, 15.9% boom probability, 18.5% optimal lineup probability. When the narrative fits what I already want to do, it doesn't hurt. So yeah, I'm going to definitely be taking shots on Jarvis Landry against the Lions. If Baker Mayfield is a man of his word and does want to get Jarvis Landry involved, I feel like against the Lions, that's a spot where you can do whatever you want. So this would be the spot to take advantage of, trying to get him more involved. So in this case, I'm not going to fade the narrative. I'm going to be playing a lot of Jarvis Landry. He's just too cheap for the matchup against the Lions. And yeah, I'm not sure that Odell Beckham really affects him as much as we want it to. So far, it has not. But I would expect, as the clear number one instead of kind of a 1A, 1B situation, I would expect him to be in a better situation here. So yeah, I'm liking Jarvis Landry a lot. And as I mentioned earlier, he the stack with Baker Mayfield on Yahoo was really intriguing for me, with 23 for Mayfield and 13 for Landry. I really like that as well. So yeah, I'm going there. Do you think, I know last week that you were a little bit hesitant to play Jarvis Landry. Has that changed at all this week for you?
Not hard to get overweight to the field when he's only 8%. I don't know. I want him to be a core play for me, though. And it's beyond just so. All right, let's say that Baker Mayfield really prioritized getting the ball to Jarvis Landry. Baker Mayfield has sucked as of late. He's been terrible this season. So I don't even know how much that overall helps him. Like, I don't know how we're really viewing and rating Baker Mayfield at this point in his career. He's going to be in the mix for me, but I think there's still a lot of guys in this mid-tier price range that I'm going to like more than Jarvis Landry, like we talked about before. Tyler Lockett. We've got Tyler Lockett for the same exact ownership as Jarvis Landry, but for $900 more. I'd rather play Tyler Lockett. Tyler Lockett, I feel better about the upside of him with Russell Wilson at quarterback than Jarvis Landry. So there's still other guys I like getting to. DJ Moore being another one at $5,900. We talked about liking Cam Newton a little bit earlier in the show, and DJ Moore at $5,900. He was a fantasy stud at the beginning of the season. He trailed off a lot recently, but a lot has to do with quarterback play. If we're going to be on Cam Newton, I think DJ Moore it makes a little bit of sense. Michael Pittman's been really good as of late. I think that him in about the same pricing range, I prefer him to Jarvis Landry. So it's a pretty loaded pricing tier for me, this, $5 to $6K range of wide receiver. And there's a lot of guys I want to be mixing in. Is there anybody else that's really a priority for you at wideout?
Yeah, so as you probably guessed, because we use the same tools, all those guys look good to me as well. I have them all listed as players that I'm interested in. Outside of them, I have a little bit of interest. We'll have to see once the tools update for DeAndre Hopkins being out. If Kyler is playing, I will definitely have some interest in Christian Kirk, AJ Green, Rondell Moore. They're just going to be too cheap based on their roles with Hopkins being out if Kyler is in. A little bit of interest in Tyler Boyd at 4,800. T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, they're all playable. Jalen Waddle, I mean, we've talked about Tua as well. He's a guy that you can definitely pair with Tua. He looks pretty solid in the tools, only 13.1% projected ownership, 15.8% boom probability, 15.5% optimal lineup probability. So I'll get to some Jalen Waddle. Darnell Mooney looks pretty good. 3.3% projected ownership, 6.1% boom probability, 7.6% optimal lineup probability. Have to like that. I'll get to some Darnell Mooney as well. And then finally, I mentioned earlier, Joe Flacco has some decent pairing options this week. Corey Davis for 5,000 against the Dolphins, 3.8% projected ownership, 9.9% boom probability, 9.9% optimal lineup probability. That's really positive leverage. So I'll get to some Corey Davis and then Jamison Crowder as well. 1.8% projected ownership with a 5% boom probability, 5.8% optimal lineup probability. I have some interest there as well.
All right, so let's move over to the tight ends, and we're starting to run a little short on time, but I want to say when we get to the tight ends, the position's finally loaded again. It's been a minute since we've had a lot of options at tight end. I'm going to be trying to prioritize spending up over on FanDuel. We've got Travis Kelce, Darren Waller, George Kittle in the mix. All three of them look excellent to me. They look excellent to me on DK as well, although I also have to add Dalton Schultz into the mix as being a really strong DK option. He's only 4,600. We talked about that really good game environment in between the Dallas Cowboys and the Kansas City Chiefs. And with Amari Cooper out for the Dallas Cowboys, you start to look and say, where else are the targets going to go? Dalton Schultz only 4,600 on DK. That's one that makes a whole lot of sense. But in terms of tight end, are you looking to pay up this week? And if so, which of the three stud tight ends appeals to you the most?
Yeah, so I'll definitely be paying up in some of my lineups. I don't know that I'm going to be too far over the field. I think looks like Darren Waller Darren Waller or George Kittle. They both look really solid in the tools. Kittle only projects for 7% ownership with a 13.8% boom probability, 10.2% optimal lineup probability against the Jaguars. I have a lot of interest there. And then Darren Waller, 13.5% projected ownership with a 19% boom probability, 13.7% optimal lineup probability. I'm going to be getting to all three of those guys. I guess if I had to choose one, I'd probably pay Kittle is probably the guy I'm going to be most over the field on. But then I think going down a little bit is where it gets really interesting. I'll go quickly. Gesicki, 6.3% projected ownership, but a 17% boom probability, 10.6% optimal lineup probability against the Jets. That just looks great. We're already playing Tua. Gesicki is a great pairing option. Zach Ertz looks okay. Dalton Schultz looks incredible. You mentioned him, 6.8% projected ownership, 16.8% boom probability, 14.5% optimal lineup probability. I'm going to be getting to a lot of Gesicki and Schultz when I'm not paying up. I'm probably not going to be going too much to the cheaper options. Are there any other tight ends you think you're going to be going well over the field on?
Not really. I mentioned Dalton Schultz, DK specific, FanDuel. I'm going to be trying to pay up for tight end where I can between Kittle, Waller, and Kelce. Kittle's looked really good the last couple of weeks, and I've still been kicking myself over a couple of weeks ago. You and I both said George Kittle, almost no ownership, looks like a great upside play. And then we get that news right before the slate starts. He's only expected to play on about 50% of the snaps. And I was like, all right, I can't be on Kittle. And then he just looked like peak George Kittle in that game, and he's looked great ever since. So George Kittle, it's funny because I don't really like Jimmy Garoppolo this week, but I like George Kittle and Deebo Samuel. So maybe I have to reevaluate what I think about Jimmy Garoppolo, but it kind of seems like he's throwing the ball. It's either going to Deebo Samuel or George Kittle, and they're giving the ball to Deebo no matter what. Even if it means they're handing the ball off to Deebo Samuel 6 times a game, they're fine with doing that as well. So I think there are paths for Kittle and Samuel to get there without Jimmy Garoppolo having a big game. But yeah, to me, it's going to be paying up at tight end. Travis Kelce also, he looked rough for a little bit. He appears to be looking healthier and back, which also I think is correlated to Patrick Mahomes playing a lot better last week. But more so than any other week that we've seen this year, I'm prioritizing paying up at tight end.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, I like paying up and I like the mid-range options. So yeah, plenty of options at tight end this week. I'm glad it's been the past few weeks. We've had some solid tight end options after looking pretty dead earlier on.
All right, guys, if you haven't done so already, do us a favor, like this video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. We've got a lot of content coming up. There is MMA Live Before Lock, NBA Deeper Dive, NBA Live Before Lock. But first, Neil and I, we're foregoing the defense position. Good. We were able to cover the other positions in full. I don't have to spend 3 minutes on these crappy defenses that I don't care about. So we're going to close the show out with our favorite stacks of the week. Which stack, and you know the question, Neil, if you were playing one tournament lineup this weekend, who would be the stack and who would be the quarterback and the stack options you'd go with?
I think I'm going to screw it. Go with my conviction play. Go with Baker Mayfield to Jarvis Landry.
Oh, okay. And by the way, actually, I just noticed we got a super chat, which I'll bring up here too, because D Owens 89 looks like he's come up with a stack option of himself. He wants to know, is Mayfield and Donovan Peoples-Jones too thin of a play for a large field tournament? So you like Mayfield. He appears to like Mayfield as well. Are you going to be looking to stack him with Donovan Peoples-Jones at all?
Yeah, in the Millie Maker, I think it's a fine play. I don't think it's too thin at all. I prefer Jarvis Landry, but yeah, I mean, Peoples-Jones. He didn't look great in the leverage tool or in the boom bust tool. He didn't have positive leverage, so I didn't bring him up. But I think that it's, he's still going to be low owned enough that I don't think it's too thin for a large field tournament.
Give me Tua Tagovailoa to Jalen Waddle. I think they've had a really good connection so far this year. We've seen a bunch of games where Tua's been quarterback and Waddle's been healthy. We've seen Tua target him, upwards of 10 times in some of those games. Tua's sheep, Waddle's sheep really enables me to spend up at a lot of other positions. So that is where I'm going. Guys, that is going to do it for us this week. One more time, I'm asking you, like this video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and good luck this weekend.
guys, how's it going? It's Al. The Week 11 first look is here. DraftKings Week 11 came quicker than every other week that I've ever seen before. I've never gone through a season this quickly. Like, time flies when you're having fun, sort of a thing. So, like, I can't believe that we're already on the back end. We're on the down slope of the season. But here we are. We still got to talk about NFL DFS for at least another, I don't know, 10, 11 weeks before we hit the Super Bowl showdown. So we've got a whole bunch of more millionaire makers to attack, and I'm going to take a look at building a tournament lineup for this week on DraftKings. I'm going to use a quarterback. I'll let you guess which one. I'm going to come up.
All right. I'll finish up a lineup based on all that conversation. Flex is always the toughest one. Did do a 3. Oh, that bluff didn't work. Oh, I hit it. I fucking 3. Let's see if I can get paid here. These guys call me with. I would have done more than a half. What does he fucking have, man? I got a call. Yeah, cash paid off big time that time. Alright, I guess I have to call here. What do you got? Oh, I hit the set. Oh, everything's coming in now. No heart. Alright, deal. Everything's coming up roses. Wow. I got 3,200 for tight end. solid. Take some damn oil here. This is 3600 for the flex. What the heck? Crushing this cash game. wasting money on 55 cent one here. This is a hyper, so we're only gonna. This is the last level already. So based on what we're just listening to, speaker sounded good. I was gonna drop out of that cash game to play the 55 cent. I'm glad I didn't. You put him in second place. Hard to get to on a consistent basis. Yeah, we're getting near the money on these two. Whatever, so registration's closed. This one's near the money. Okay, we're not gonna play that now. Alright, 34, need to get down to 45. Down to 54.
So yeah, we're just kind of heading up here, seeing what this is all about. It's been a while since I've been here. What's that? Let's check this out. Don't really know what it is, but we're gonna check her out. What you find, people, when you just explore. That's what, to me, the Super 73 is all about. Exploring. I ride my Eagle more aggressive off-road, trails, you know, that kind of stuff. But this is just kind of like haphazardly riding around, seeing what I can find, and look what I come across. Are you serious? Look at this freaking view, people. Wow. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 mountain ranges all converging. Look at that. Are you kidding? Wow. Unbelievable. See, this is where I need a frickin'... God damn it. This is where I need a frickin' kickstand. What a great frickin' view. How am I supposed to do that? Got some nice Instagram pics. And now, I'm just gonna kind of see what there is. I'm not gonna go way down there. That's like a bit steep for me right now. We're gonna see what there is. It's just all kinds of fun. Loving me some exploration station. Who knows what's out here, you know what I mean? See another Instagram pic. That's what it's all about now. Instagram pics. Why they're so important, I don't know. Why I care, I don't know. But it's just fun messing with pics and, you know, this and that and this and that. This is kind of an interesting little shot right here. Yeah. Instagram pics, people. So there you have that. Whole barn situation. Something, 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 something. So you got water treatment plants or whatever the hell it is. Just about everywhere you go. I don't know what that's all about. You sure see a lot of them. So what is all this up here? I have no idea. You could have like a picnic up here with your whole church. With everybody you know. Anybody and everybody. Look at this. It's like campground up here. This is nuts. I don't think anybody even knows this exists. Like, I don't think anybody in America knows this exists. Anyway, I think this is it. It's just me. You know what I mean? Look at that view, people. Jesus. It's just amazing up here. Wow. Imagine that was your house. That was your view every morning. Good Lord. I don't think anybody's ever been up here before, like ever. I think this is uncharted territory. And I think I am truly the first. The first ever. Wow. I should put like one of those flags, you know, like when you conquer a mountain or something. Maybe I'll come back and bring one of those. It'll just say, I was here. You know? Let people figure out who. Look at that. That's a frickin' picture too. Man, that's awesome. Damn, look at that. Those mountains. It's just epic. It's like lookout points everywhere you go. My God. Yeah, I'm in awe of my own frickin' town, people. I get it. It's just like beautiful though. Sometimes you just catch yourself going, my God. What the hell's that all about? Look at this. It just keeps going. It's amazing just to discover. It's like, wow. I don't know, people. I have no idea what we found, but I sure think it's awesome. Oh, look at all these goddamn cactus. Cactus. Cactumize. I don't know what the hell you want to call them. Is it really cacti? Like, really? That's what you call it, a cacti? What the hell's a cacti? You know? I don't like that at all. I don't like when they call it that. Alright, people. We're back. We're just checking out a little path situation in and around the boys, what do you call it? The YMCA. Who knew this was all back here? I didn't. Epic views, cool little trails, a little zip zooming going on. No idea what this is all about. I don't know, there's like some sort of, oh, this is probably like, oh, this is for, what do you call it? This is like for Boy Scouts where they do archery. Yes, that's what this is. Archery. Now I know. Now I know. Now you know. Now we got, what do we got over here? Basketball? I'm probably in like, you know, trespassing territory, but whatever. Really? We got a little chicken cockfighting ring here. It's certainly encouraging for the children. How cool is all this? And they got over here a little playground for the children's. For the child's friends. The kitties. Look at this. Isn't that something? This has like day camp written all over it, you know? We're gonna do the Kumbaya song, everybody. Everybody gather around, you know? And here I am, just like doing my thing, you know? I don't know. Just checking it out. Yeah. That's pretty freaking slick, people. What we discover by just riding around. Isn't that something? Oh, this is a little aggressive, people. Alright, this is a little aggressive. I think I gotta walk this one. Can't tell, but this is really steep and there's some freaking crazy ass rocks and stuff. It's hard to tell. I will say, it is very hard to tell on camera. Whoops. How something really looks. It's a lot steeper than it really looks on camera. And I know that because I go down stuff and I'm like, oh my god. And then I go back and look at it on footage and I'm like, there's nothing there. But what the hell is that? So yeah, you guys think I just kind of pussyfoot around, but no, I do not. It's just deceiving, that's all. What's this? Is this where the bigwigs for YMCA Park or something? What is this, a little trail situation? I don't know, but we're going to explore. See, like, what the hell's this? I don't think humans have ever been back here either. Except for to build that basketball court. Other than that, nobody else. Basically uncharted territory. I am like Amerigo Vespucci. I am an explorer. I am like Lewis and Clark. I'm not sure which one. Do you ever just say Lewis or do you ever just say Clark? No, it's always Lewis and Clark. Like they had to do everything together. Couldn't do anything by themselves, really. So, I don't know. Can I even get through here or is this gonna be just a no-go? Yeah, it's looking like a no-go, people. I don't see myself squeezing through there and getting all these cacti all over me. Cactuses and their freaking thorns that are just dying to puncture something. They're just like waiting. They just sit there and wait and they're like, come on, let's puncture something, people. Let's puncture something. I don't know what the hell I have to puncture shit for all the time. Just leave me the hell alone. Kinds of mountains I could climb. I just don't really feel like doing that right now. Just trying to have a nice little Sunday stroll, you know what I mean? On my bike, so it's not really a stroll. A Sunday roll. Yeah, an afternoon roll. How's that? So I was on the phone with a client today. I have some marketing work I do for people and got some clients, and one of them was talking about how they have a solution, a technology solution that, you know, from beginning to end, they've got it all. And he's like, a lot of times people say cradle to grave or they say soup to nuts. This guy said womb to tomb. Isn't that something? You ever heard of that? Womb to tomb. I'm like, wow, that's really, never heard that before. Yep, that's gotta be where the big wigs go. Nice cars. They got buses coming and going. Yeah, these YMCAers have the life out here. They got all kinds of stuff. Dang.
Go forward and look to the right. There's a buck walking out of the...
Oh, I see it. Holy.
Go for it. Just go slow.
Are you seeing that, people? We got like wildlife.
I'll let you like film it.
We got wildlife. Look at this. Wow. Let's be very, very quiet. Very, very quiet. Look at that. Hi, Annie. How are you, baby? Jesus Christ, that's the second one we've seen so far. Isn't that crazy? It's just nuts. Wildlife, people. Wow. Damn. Just looking for water. It's always going, whoa, shit, dude. Oh, there's another freaking deer. Are you kidding me? That's a different one. Dude, we're in wildlife, people. We're in the wildlife preserve. Isn't that something? So yeah, I don't know. I love trails that I've never been on because it's so freaking exciting. You know what the hell's gonna come up, you know? But at the same time, you're like, you don't know what the hell's coming up. You know what I'm saying, people? It's like, you know. So recently, well, actually it's still live. I did a survey on my community tab on my YouTube channel. And I asked people what kinds of videos they like. Because I do, you know, these kinds of, like, let's call these group rides. I do rides where I just ride by myself and just bullshit. I do rides that, or I do videos, you know, about instructional stuff. Like, you know, how to change your tire, how to patch your tire, you know, how to fix your brakes from rubbing, that kind of stuff. And then I do like e-bike introductions and overviews, you know, and reviews. And number one, by a lot, was e-bike intros and reviews. So I'm gonna start doing more of those. But second, in a very close second place, like 33% to 29%, was me riding by myself and just bullshit. So I'm kind of doing a hybrid on this trail right here. This is me with some guys, but I'm gonna try to bullshit at the same time. So this is a hybrid, you know what I mean? So I think in like the past when I go on group rides, I don't really talk much. I'm just so kind of, I don't know, in awe of what's happening. But I'm gonna try to talk on this one, okay? And I haven't ridden with James in a bit. I haven't ridden with Val. Like, this is my second time ever with Val. So should be a good adventure, peeps. So we're in Monrovia, California. It's kind of near Pasadena, where the Rose Bowl is. For those that don't know. Oh boy, we got some serious steepness here. Oh boy. Heaps. Wow. All right, Jesus Christ. All right. It's nice to know when something like that's coming. So you have like a little momentum, you know what I mean? Come on, people, I gotta get on track. Fuck me.
That guy that was stuck?
Dude, it's funny. It's just that there's always a guy who needs water or gets lost.
He was thirsty.
I'm just here to help, you know? Did you bring the drone?
No, I didn't.
Oh. We should go up that trail right there.
Crazy, dude.
Oh, right there. That's our trail right there.
That one, yeah, it's a wicked trail.
Dude, that's gotta be like 30% grade.
I don't think the Surround's gonna make it, but I think this thing can.
I don't know about that. Dude, I was good except I popped a wheelie when we hit that last thing.
Yeah, that's what trips me out sometimes too.
You can like lean forward.
How are you on air?
I'm good.
Good.
Like 12% maybe.
Dude, I'm so high right now. It's like
Oh, really? All right, people, we're back. Had a little tire situation, but we're back. You good?
Yeah, I'll catch up to you guys.
James had his tires too high, and then he put it all the way down to 0. And now he's at like 12. I think I'm at like probably 15, or maybe 12, which is good. I like it. I was at like 25 at one point, and I had like no grip, you know? I'm really liking my 12 to 15. It's just like, it flattens the tire out at the bottom enough that you have a lot of surface area of contact, you know? A lot more carving capabilities. Hence shredding, hence shredder, hence the frickin' shredder. Get it? It all makes sense, doesn't it? So Val is gonna be like Mr. Moto and try to catch up, but I don't know how he's gonna do that because we're like way down here and I don't even see him yet. So my goal today, in addition to staying alive, which is always my goal, is to stay out of the bushes. I've already been in the bushes twice. No need to be in the bushes. If you're in the bushes, you're off path. You are awry. I don't want to be awry. Anyhow, out of the bushes. OTB, that's what today is. Not off-track betting, but out of the bushes. All right. I tend to go silent when I think I'm in danger, so if you see me going silent, it's because I think something's happening. Like scaling a very steep hill with big divots going through it, you know? This is reminiscent of Hungry Valley with Tyler. Man, they got some freaking hills that just come out of nowhere. Gotta have some power, you're not getting up this shit. We're scaling mountains, people. This is mountaineering. This isn't even riding bikes. Of course, James is gone. Man's fearless. Packs a lot of balls into that little body. See, now we got momentum. Like, how great is this? See how nice that is? I love me some momentum. So much easier. Oh man, these are some freaking hills, people. Jesus Christ. Wow, we're going up that? I was just looking at that thinking, holy shit. We're actually going up it. Wow.
cluster clock on both of them.
Oh my God, people. Some serious vertical activity here. This is probably like a 25% grade, like no shit. Wow. Loving my Eagle.
How's that?
That was some freaking steep shit, dude.
That's some good shit, huh?
When we were down there, like right there, I was like, God, I can't believe I hope we don't go up that shit. Fuck. At least we had momentum.
And then you're like, shit, you just gotta.
We gotta do it. At least we have momentum.
Yeah.
I just said the line.
Well, look at that trail right there where it just drops off.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I just said the line. James has a lot of balls in that little body. That's what I said.
I feel like that's a little bit more than Billy Goat. That's like.
Dude, how that? I don't even. Yeah, Goat could fucking scale that. That's about it. That's what we were looking at before. But this is the bottom part.
That basically is a fire. They started to block a fire line right there. That's probably why that's dug.
I want to see if Val's behind me, but I can't dare look away from the path. I'm just gonna assume he's there. So anyway, I had my 2 gloves on the LAE skate ride. I was loading my bike on the truck, and I put my 2 gloves on the tail of the truck, and I drove away. And when I got home, 45 miles later, one of them was still there. That's this one. And then I realized the other one's gone. So I actually ordered some new ones, but they're not here yet. So hence I have a baseball glove, of all things. Or it might be golf. I can't remember what it is. It's from a while ago, so I don't know. I had golf gloves at one point, and I have had baseball gloves at one point, so I'm not sure what the hell it is. Here it is, so you can see it. Yep. So I have different feels. I can tell you that the Moto glove is a lot more comfortable. It's more elastic. Alright, Val's behind me. All good. Wow, we got some rock quarries going on over here. That was fun. That's called redundancy, when you go right over the same freaking path again. I think James loved that view so much he wanted to see it again. So, God bless the man, I guess. Yeah, these motherfuckers are talking. I gotta get me a goddamn headset. Fuck. Really? Everybody's talking? What the hell is this? Is this even a path? Whoa, shit. What the fuck is this? Is this a path?
You remember when
This is like a made-up trail they just made up.
it is now?
Dude, we're like in the middle of nowhere. You know?
In December 2008, legendary investor Whitney Tilson explained 60 Minutes anchor Scott Pelley that there would be a second wave mortgage crisis, but nevertheless, the stock market would soar. Soon after, stocks started the biggest bull market run in U.S. history. Then, in March 2015, Tilson appeared again on 60 Minutes, this time with Anderson Cooper, and revealed a huge scandal at one of America's largest home improvement companies, Lumber Liquidators. Soon after, the company's stock price fell nearly 80%. And that brings us to today. Whitney Tilson, one of the most famous former hedge fund managers in America, who's appeared twice on national television to explain major financial news stories.
These guys all know how to freaking ride. And it's like, I've been riding for so long with them, but they used to ride before they even met me for like years with motorcycles and shit. So, I don't know. I don't think I can ever catch up, you know? When I get to where, I'm not even where they were when we started, but as I get an inch closer, they keep going further, so, you know what I mean? Oh, there's some dog shit. Dogs can do this, I can do this, right, people? And we're off pathing it, I tell you what. Off pathing. Like big time off pathing. Okay, now we're back on the path. Dude, James just took a freaking wheelie. Did I see that? This is like a roll down memory lane for James. That's where Jimmy lost his toe. That's where Tommy found a dildo. That's where Bobby met his wife. You know, whatever, dude. Just ride the goddamn trail. I don't know Bobby or Tommy anyway. I'm just theorizing. You know what I mean? Spitballing, people. Yeah, some of this shit puts Hungry Valley to shame there. I said, really? I didn't think it was possible. Yeah, these mofos are talking. Probably like, this ditch Kevin, man. Let's go get something to eat and leave this mofo behind. I don't even know where the hell I'm going. I guess I could just follow the poop. There's plenty of that. They have these stupid headset things that I'll show you what they look like, but I guess I gotta get one. James was telling me about it like a month ago. I'm like, what the hell do I need that for? But now I guess I get it. So we can talk about bullshit. Hey there. Making friends. Everywhere as we goes. These guys are like palling around their goddamn walkie-talkies, and it's like I'm by myself. They're like, oh yeah, let's clue Kevin in on what the hell we're doing. It's like, really, dude? Man.
So I've ridden out here, kind of like a little spot you can ride up there. And it kind of like drops dead in. So it's hard to turn around. So
Look at the views these people have. Fuck.
Beautiful, huh?
Yeah.
Part of it is anyway.
How we going? Yeah, I know it's gnarly. I love when people tell you shit's gnarly before you go down it. It's like, really, dude? Thanks. Oh, watch that big tree right there. Shit.
Sorry, guys.
Oh. Sometimes you gotta pick her up, people, and walk her or flip her. That's just nuts. So anyway, I don't like when people tell me shit's gnarly. I just don't like to hear it. It's not my favorite word. The only video I've ever done out of my 250 videos where I use the word gnarly on the thumbnail was one where I went in the dirt at Benelli Park and almost died. So gnarly's not my friend. I don't like when people use that word at all. Oh shit, fuck that, man. James is way the F down there. Definitely off-seating it. This is some rough shit, people. Really rough shit. Back to the beginning.
Huh?
It was back to the beginning.
How'd you like that?
That was nice.
So there's another access place.
Join Swift and smash your workouts with the indoor training app where fun is fast.
This is interesting. Come on, baby. Come on. Yeah, you got this. You need some speed.
Oh, did you climb it? You got him.
This is interesting.
That doesn't go very far. No.
I love your dog, by the way.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, it goes to, and then there's a like pathway to go to Lake Amza. This goes a loop.
All right, appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, take the loop. Come here.
Dude, it sucks.
That shit was fun, man.
Yeah.
Oh, it's gonna get crazy up there.
Oh yeah, this should be very interesting.
We're just gonna go until we hit a point. Man, can the S1 guy make it? Nice.
Wow, look at him. Wow, look at the sights. Nice view. Nice view. Thank you.
We gotta wait up, man. Yeah, we got 2 more people back there.
2 more people. Maybe the buy.
Huh?
The buy. Yeah, I think this would be kind of tough for Sean on the Super 73.
Yeah. Oh, no, I wouldn't have made it.
Yeah.
No, there's no way.
You got to switch up, man. You got to get now Sur-Ron.
That's what I was afraid of, Mike. That's what Mike did to me, remember?
Sean right on the Sur-Ron. Yeah? Yeah, he did. Yeah, he has my black one. I thought you were gonna bring the Super 73. Yeah, right now we had our road. See the bike's not come.
It's S1.
So, and
No suspended.
Yeah, only front. I see him. Oh.
Who's coming?
73 might be having trouble.
Oh. Like, not enough torque?
I don't know.
Yeah.
We,
So is your rear brake okay now?
Even though we're moving.
Is the rear brake okay?
Yes, okay. Just still a little bit, maybe. All right. All right.
Ready?
Yeah.
Going down these trails is way more fun.
Is there some downhill right here?
Yeah. Well, coming back towards the yard. This is all uphill for now.
David's up there. Don't you feel like just ripping it?
Yeah.
Right?
Too many people now.
Yeah.
That's why I always try and come to these type of parks on the weekdays.
Yep.
Oh my god! Bougie on a budget, because it is affordable. Felt like being in a bougie.
We are back. It's the Joe Holka Show presented by FanDuel. Week 11 tournament plays of the week, position by position. These are guys that might go overlooked in GPPs that can help us get to the top of the DFS leaderboards. Plus, we're going to show you guys how to use this information to build a GPP lineup live at the end. Quarterback, GPP play of the week, Aaron Rodgers. He's 7,700 at Minnesota. I'm going to be at this game, so this is interesting to me from a stacking perspective, but tell us why you like him.
Well, one, because you're going to be there, and whenever you go to games and stack them, you win a lot of money. That is a hard data point that we could trust.
Can't confirm it's not every time. Can't confirm. It's definitely not every time, but yeah, this is a Viking Stadium has been good to me. We'll say that.
This is one of the sweetest leverage spots we've had all year. Last year we had super chalky Dearness Johnson, but like I said on here, it wasn't really a spot to get away from Dearness. We actually talked about finding correlation with Dearness, which worked if you listen to it. This with AJ Dillon being probably mega chalk with Aaron Jones out is a fantastic opportunity, because unlike the Browns last week, we know that the Packers are very capable of passing the ball efficiently. They have Devontae Adams, they have Aaron Rodgers coming off of that really quiet performance last week against the Seahawks, where Rodgers was coming off COVID, Russell Wilson was coming off the hand injury, still probably had an injured hand. The game flow was just really ugly. Like I said, we know Aaron Rodgers can be super efficient. He's going to be probably sub 5% because we have so many quarterbacks in really high-scoring games this week. And you're getting Devontae at pretty high ownership too, probably. So if you are playing him, Aaron Rodgers is going to bring down the average ownership of Devontae. So I like Rodgers. Not like I'm probably not like looking to stack Dillon in like full game stacks or anything.
That's what I was going to ask.
This is a spot where I want to leverage off of the AJ Dillon chalk, especially because we have so many chalky plays in the late window. Like, you're gonna have to pick one or the other, right? You're probably not playing Dillon with like your Mahomes or your Tyreek or your Kelsey teams. So you're gonna have to pick one or the other. So I like Aaron Rodgers as the cheap contrarian, not cheap, but like cheapish compared to some of the other quarterbacks. Contrarian stack early. Allows for those chalky plays in the later window. And I like this game as a game stack in general, because Minnesota, not just their offense, but their games have been very volatile. They've basically been shootouts or duds. If we look at scoring correlations, their scoring correlates higher than any other team with their opponents scoring, a plus 0.71 correlation, like almost a perfect correlation, which is completely unheard of.
Yeah.
Obviously could just be noise, but we've seen it this year. The Vikings have scored 30 points 4 times. In 2 of those games, they've allowed the opposing quarterback to go over 32 points. And then on top of that, one of the reasons that they do have very high correlation with their opponents, because even if they do get up, they haven't been able to stop the pass game. They've allowed the second most 100-yard receiving games to opposing pass catchers, which obviously, if we're playing Devontae here, expect him to have a big game. So Minnesota is just a team that sets up for crazy correlation plays. So I like stacking Rodgers, and I think for the most part, I like trying to bring it back with Minnesota if I can.
Yeah, I think we kind of glossed over it, but I do want to ask you about playing Dillon with this stack, because we've kind of been talking about this on the tilt space a little bit. Adding running backs to your stacks can differentiate you, but in this specific situation where Dillon is going to be very chalky, and he's not free, TJ, $7K on FanDuel, he's not free.
Yes,
this is not the same as last week. So
that was my other point.
In this situation, right, you're just focusing on the leverage that you're getting versus just trying to have a different type of Dillon team at that point, right? That's how you benefit from it.
Yeah, I think that's definitely the move. I think if you want to stack Dillon somehow, I think it makes a lot more sense as like a mini stack. Like if you're going to play Dillon with one of the Vikings pass catchers, and that's really consistent with what we see from successful lineups on FanDuel. That running back mini stack is just massive. But I think if you do want to play him, the way to get unique is like don't try to game stack it. Throw in Dillon with like a Jefferson or Thielen or even a Conklin, and then like you're going to have to pick, you're still gonna have to pick and choose like your other track guys are, because Dillon's he's gonna be like 35%, 40% or something like that. So it is really raising the overall ownership percentage of your lineup.
Yeah, shout out to you, TJ, because I know you're not going to say it, but we talked a lot about Dearness Johnson, how to get different with him last week, and TJ's like, yeah, just play Hunter Henry with him. All he does is score touchdowns. What does Hunter Henry do? He scores touchdowns. Weird. So I should listen to you a little bit more. There's some people in the chat that were talking about it on Sunday morning, and I did not pull the trigger on that. But looking at the sims, if we were to simulate this slate 10,000 times, AJ Dillon is the highest in the optimal rate, but Devontae Adams is not too far behind at 17%. So I think there's other ways that we can get different with this. Dalvin Cook at 8,400. We'll see where his ownership settles in this one, is also popping in that game. But let's move over to the running back position, TJ, and Ezekiel Elliott, 8,500 on FanDuel at Kansas City. Kind of similar. If a lot of people going to try and play this game, I would imagine it's going to be the KC passing game that ends up being the most popular. So Ezekiel Elliott seems like a decent GPP option this week.
Yeah, and this game is another reason I don't love playing AJ Dillon in tournaments, because we have just from before we even get into the Zeke play, just from a theory perspective in terms of this game, Kansas City Dallas is in the late window, the latest window, the 425 game. So we're going to get mega chalk in the latest game. So what should we be doing in those scenarios? Well, when we roster those players, looking for late swap opportunities. If our players do good early, we could stay on our chalk. If they do bad early, we could late swap. The problem with Dillon is he's so chalky that if he goes off, you still don't really know where you stand. So you don't have as much information on what to do with your late guys. So Zeke fits into that at $8,500. He is going to be the contrarian play you can start with him or you can pivot to him. It doesn't matter, because if you're putting him in your flex at $8,500, it lets you pivot to anybody on the slate. You can go with a chalky Tyreek at the same salary. You could pivot to CD at $8,000. You could pivot to Kelsey at $7,300 if you have like a second player in the late window, and you could do some kind of double or even triple swap. But the point is, the Chiefs side is probably going to be the mega chalk, because with the Cowboys, one, their pass catchers kind of cannibalize each other's ownership. Two, Dak just doesn't get super chalky just because people are scared of the running game cannibalizing. And then Zeke isn't going to get chalky, one, because he's expensive, and two, because people are worried about Pollard. So you're getting huge leverage off of the Chiefs side with the running game, where people, if they are playing this game, it's probably going to be in the passing game. And then on top of that, you have more leverage, because if Clyde Edwards-Helaire doesn't return, Zeke isn't even the most popular running back in his own game. Darrell Williams probably gets a lot of ownership, but that's TBD on CEH's availability. On top of all of the reasons that Zeke is a good leverage play because of this late game, he is maybe an opportunity for a contrarian salary allocation. That depends a little bit on Dalvin, like you said. Like he could come in around like 15 to 20 maybe, but if he does get popular, Zeke's a price pivot off of him because Dalvin's 8,400, Zeke's 8,500. But the running backs that we do know are going to be popular, AJ Dillon at 7K, DeAndre Swift at 7,500, Michael Carter at 6,600, James Conner at 72, Gaskin at 62. They're all 75 or below. So by paying all the way up for Zeke, you're really kind of flipping the build because so many people are going to be paying up for these Tyreeks, Devontae, Stephon Diggs, the expensive quarterbacks. So I like that. In addition to all of the late, like just infinite late swap opportunities. I think even if you don't love this game, even if you don't know how to stack it, I think it's probably wise just to have 2 late window guys in your lineup with one in the flex so that you can take advantage of the late swap this week.
Yeah, every slate is different, but I think people, they like the hard and fast rules, TJ. So I'll give them a couple that I try and live by. I almost always want to be contrarian early so that I have that information. If I hit on it, great. Then I can play the chalk stack the rest of the way, or I can just play the best plays the rest of the way. If you're doing the opposite of that and you're walking into this 1 p.m. chalk, like you said, you have no idea where you're at still. Like, best case scenario, you still have chalk the rest of the way. You're holding hands at the top, which is what you don't want to do anyway. So that would be my first hard and fast rule. Take chances in the beginning. Make sure that you late swap accordingly. The second thing is I almost always play a 4 p.m. defense. So it's a little bit harder to do on this slate because there's going to be better options for sure in the 1 p.m. slate. But the thing I really like about this slate specifically is you could play the Kansas City defense or the Dallas defense just in a scenario where all the chalk is in this game and then it ends up just being a fluke defensive touchdown that gets there. So just trying to get different at 4 p.m. is something you can absolutely do, and I think people should do that. Before we move on to wide receiver, I want the people to know that this is live every week, Mondays and Thursdays, 2 to 5 p.m. Eastern time, and then, of course, the big show on Sunday is 9 a.m. to noon. Get you guys ready for kickoff. Wide receiver GPP play of the week. We're staying in this Green Bay game. Justin Jefferson, he's 7,900. If you're not paying all the way up for AJ Dillon at 7K, you're going to have room to get some of these wide receivers. We just built a lineup with Jake Seeley, and if you guys haven't checked out that video, definitely do that. But it's hard to get in these primary Vikings guys on the other side of these stacks if you are playing AJ Dillon and some of these other expensive weapons. So I love the Justin Jefferson call. Tell us why you like him.
Yeah, as I mentioned, we have so many running backs that are going to be coming in sub 7K with really substantial ownership, and that's because a lot of people are going to be paying up for the top 6 or 7 wide receivers. So if we look at those top wide receivers, the only wide receiver that's over $7,500 that I have coming in sub 10% ownership right now is Justin Jefferson. And as I mentioned, if I'm playing Minnesota or Green Bay, I'm playing it for the huge boom upside, and like their total is middling, the implied point totals are middling, but it is a small spread. Like I said, when the Vikings games have went off, they've went off on both sides. So I like the correlation play, whether it's with AJ Dillon or it's in a game stack. I wanted to say Justin Jefferson specifically because, as I mentioned when we were talking about Dillon, I actually do think him, Conklin, and Thielen are all really viable bringbacks. The Packers are 21st in QBR allowed on short passes, but their top 5 are steep and intermediate passes. So that kind of leans into Conklin and Thielen as matchup plays. But Jefferson is the guy that's going to explode. He's the guy that's going to break the slate for you. And even though Green Bay has been really good against the pass, even down a couple guys in their secondary, and they've limited wide receivers as a whole as a position, we have seen wide receiver ones go off against them. We've seen Jamar go off against them. We've seen Terry McLaurin go off against them. Deontay Johnson had a really good game against them. So even though like Packers don't give up a lot of deep balls, and when you do throw against them, it's the short stuff. Yeah, the matchup says Jefferson might not succeed most of the time, but I go back to he's a salary pivot off the guys like CD, Diggs, Jamar, and Debo, who are all right around him. So I think from a tournament perspective, it just makes a lot of sense just to pay up, pay for the explosive guy, pay for the guy that can go for 202 in Justin Jefferson.
Love the mini stack with him. I think that if you get him at sub 10%, you're already different from the majority of the Dillon teams out there. So love that. Tight end GPP play of the week. We have Mark Andrews. He's 7K on FanDuel at Chicago. Again, like trying to pay up a little bit more at tight end where it is going to be a situation. You want to play a guy that has at least 80 and a touchdown in him, right? You can't say that about a lot of these tight ends. So I like the idea of Mark Andrews this week for sure.
Yeah, I like Andrews, mostly just because he is sandwiched between Kelsey, Kittle, Waller. Kelsey, Kittle, I think will definitely be pretty chalky. Waller, I think it could go either way just on how the public's perceiving that team right now. I'm not 100% sure, but I could see Waller getting into the double-digit ownerships just because of the name value. And then Andrews is the one that I think is probably going to be the odd man out of that group. I mean, you can obviously just get really different, just get out of the salary tier, but I think on FanDuel there's enough salary this week, especially with all of those running backs that we talked about, that you're not really going to have to pay all the way down at the position if you don't want to. And Baltimore's really interesting this week because they're coming off of a bad nationally televised game, but Lamar should still be pretty popular because people are going to be able to play him. They are favored. They do have by 5 points. They have a 25-point total. Lamar's just super interesting because people just don't double Lamar, right? So if he brings somebody along, he's only going to bring along one guy, or both of the guys are going to cannibalize each other's ownership. So we're either going to see like Marquise surprisingly get to 15, or Mark Andrews and Marquise both stay at like 5 or 6%, which is crazy for like a quarterback with the top 3 ownership. So again, I think because Marquise has been seeing so much volume that if Lamar brings someone with him this week, it's going to be Marquise. So it's going to leave, I think it leaves Andrews probably 5%, maybe even lower. And again, like you said, he can always go off because he's Mark Andrews and he has Lamar with them. And I actually think he's a sneaky pairing, like you talked about, liking to correlate the defense. I think you could do a sneaky pairing Mark Andrews and the Ravens defense in Chicago.
Yeah, my only concern is that Marquise Brown does look like he's still a little bit banged up, was sidelined on first day's practice. But I think your argument on like if anyone gets to that range, they're still going to prefer to get to Waller Kelsey. So I definitely think he's still providing a ton of leverage. Let's talk about defense for a second. Your GP DST play of the week: Miami Dolphins 4,800 on FanDuel against the Jets. We built it to a team with Jake. Spoiler alert on the locks of the week 7. So I think it's going to be, if you are paying down for some of these weapons, like the Miami guys look pretty good. So looking to build a little bit, paying up for the Miami Dolphins defense.
Yeah, I just don't think if anybody is going up that high, they're probably going to go for like the Bills because the Bills are the best defense in the league. The Dolphins, I do think there's a scenario where there's lots of scenarios where even though they're only favored by 3.5, that Miami just gets out huge, and people are going to be building to a teams because you can attack this Jets defense pretty much however you like. Even though they haven't been giving up huge games to wide receivers, they have had quarterbacks have some good games against them, and they're obviously horrible against running backs. So if you have a team that we know could probably build a really nice lead against the Jets, and on top of that, you could pair the defense if you want to play Gaskin, who I think could end up being pretty popular. Pair Gaskin with the Dolphins and
finish with 663. Good, it's almost there. We got tired. So 383 is 663.